Alright, here we go with part 2. Robot explains the crimes of Grindelwald to Hot Rod. Senpai. And I got this backup. Do 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 do. Oh, he's coming at you. Nice little mug I got from USJ, Universal Studios Japan, in Osaka. It also has wine in it. Alright, so this is part 2 of explaining the crimes of Grindelwald, and I've shot this a couple of times, but my throat is full of coating similar to that of donkey juice and turtle spunk, and it's all like coating my throat. So, yeah, it's kind of hard to talk. I'm eating these halls, sucking on these halls, but they're Japanese halls. So, where we left off is they were in Grindelwald's headquarters, and he was talking to Kral, the Japanese Dutch actor, or Dutch Japanese actor, and he was like, well, if you can kill him, if I ask you to go kill Albus Dumbledore, would you do it? And Kral was like, the great Albus Dumbledore? And Grindelwald was explaining that Credence is the only entity that will be able to stop Albus Dumbledore, because Grindelwald can't fight Albus because of the Blood Pact. Spoilers. Lots of spoilers. Senpai. Alright, so after that, we have the scene where Newt and Jacob are trying to go to France to go find Tina. So they got the postcard, when the postcard told them, oh, look, Tina's in France. So, because of the travel ban, Newt needs to use a port key, so he goes over like the cliffs of Dover, and what was that Steve Vai song? And so they take the port key over to France, and they immediately go to the French version of Diagon Alley, and Newt's like, boom, magic time, and he starts like using some tracing tracker magic, gold dust and stuff like that with his Niffler. He's like, alright, let's find him, let's find out what happened here. I don't think he knows that there was a circus and a bunch of stuff, but he's like, okay, well. So he's like, oh, look, it was Tina and some dude, and there's a feather, and I'll put a tracker on this feather, and we'll go follow the feather, and we'll find the guy who interacted with Tina. That's our plan. So I'm like, okay. And then after that, we see Tina going into the French ministry, and she's looking for Queenie. Queenie's going into the French ministry looking for Tina. So Queenie goes to the magical elevator, goes down the magical elevator, goes over to the front desk and say, hello, I'm looking for my sister, she's an Auror, and they have a bunch of records like, oh, we don't have her So it looks like Tina is in France on her own, trying to track down Credence to help Credence. Now, while Queenie is at the front desk talking with the French lady, you see another old lady going to the elevator and then start going up the elevator. And she changes, and it turns out to be Abernathy. And he gives a package to, I think, Rosier, the lady helper. It's also Grindelwald team. Team GY. And that package will turn out to be the spoilers will turn out to be the family tree. So they took the family tree out of the French ministry to put it somewhere else and do something with it. I wonder why. And after that, Queenie leaves the French ministry, and she's like, I don't know where Tina is, and she hears a bunch of voices. Her telepathy is going crazy and stuff, and she gets like tapped on the shoulder and says, "Hey," by a lady. It's like, well, why don't you come with me? I'll help you. It turns out to be one of the GWAD team. And then we see Nagini and Credence going to, tracking down their lead on Credence's family, and they find out that they find this little half-elf lady who was banging her parents were like an elf and a human banging or something, made a half-elf, and he's like, "Are you my mother?" He's like, "No, I was just the nanny, and I sent you away and stuff like that. But you're so handsome and stuff like that." It's like, okay. And then the bounty hunter shows up and kills the nanny before they can talk a lot. And then the bounty hunter puts up some shield, and Credence turns into the Obscurus, and then tries to attack him, but the shield protects him. It's like, wow, that's a really convenient, easy way to protect yourself from a very powerful Obscurus. And then he just apparates out, and I'm out. And then it turns out that bounty hunter was working for Grindelwald for the greater good. Okay. Then we go. After that, we see Queenie. I think this is how it went. We see Queenie inside of GWAD's headquarters, and she's been served a bunch of tea, and it's like the tea kettles the same way Dumbledore kept knocking the Dursleys in the head with the cup. His tea kettle's like, get some more tea. That was in the book, not in the movie. But so she, we take that she's been drugged or something like that, and her telepathy has been stopped or something. And then here comes Grindelwald, and she's like, "Oh, I know who you are. You're a bad guy." And Grindelwald's like, "No. I want for you to be free to love whoever you want, and I want freedom and stuff." And she's like, "Oh, Queenie, please, you are innocent. Please, go from here. You are free, and I want you to be free." So Queenie takes off. Maybe she got brainwashed there. Then Newt and Jacob find find the guy with the feather. It's like to track him down. It's like, hey, we're looking for Tina. She's an Auror, but she's missing. And the guy's like, well, I don't know who she is. And I was like, well, why don't we go to the ministry and an Auror missing. That's pretty big news. And he's like, all right. Yeah, I think I know where she is. I'll take you to her. So Yosef takes them down into the sewer system where he had captured Tina. It's like, oh, look, she's Tina over here. And then he uses magic to close the door. It's like, oh, I closed the door. But the door has a lock on it, which is kind of silly. We know locks don't mean anything in Harry Potter land. Why didn't he use magic to fuse the bars together or something? I don't know. But he's like, okay, yeah, you're locked in there. And then he gets taken down by it's like something in his head. It's like, oh, there was a parasite in his head. And they mentioned something about the parasite, but I forgot what it was. Like something about the water dragon was parasites or something. I forgot. Maybe I'll put a note or something over here in the title. But he gets knocked out, and then Tina was like, "Oh, great, that was my only lead." And Newt came back with a quick, "Well, how was the interrogation going before I got here?" She was already captured and stuff like that. Burned. And so the bow truckle, because there's a lock, he picks locks and he sets them free. And at the same time, there's a big bunch of noise up on street level. And, it's the dragon that escaped from the circus. So Newt's like, I'll go capture it. He goes up street side. And I don't know if this was in the French Diagon Alley area. Because, I guess that's the way to excuse what happened. But this dragon's like climbing on buildings and smashing stuff and doing a bunch of wrecking cars, a bunch of cars in there. The French people are driving cars in the French Diagon Alley. You never saw that in the British Diagon Alley. In London, that's in London. So I'm thinking maybe it's not. Maybe it's just Muggle land. So this dragon is causing a bunch of ruckus all over the place on a bridge or something, and then Newt goes up there and it's like, hey, look, I got a little kitty cat toy. And the dragon's like, what? You got a kitty cat toy? Shit. Look at that. And then Newt just drops it into his suitcase, and the dragon jumps in there after it. It's like, all right, I captured it. And then he pulls out his the business card that Dumbledore gave him when they were in London, and with directions to the safe house in France, because Dumbledore knew that he was going to need a safe house in France. And so he apparates with Tina, and they're out of there. And they go get Yosef, Kama, and of course Jacob, and all four of them take off to the safe house. It's like, yay, okay. But they left all of those people who just saw a big, huge dragon smashing into buildings and cars and stuff like that. It's like, oh, okay, that dragon just went into a suitcase, and then those two people just disappeared, took off. Where is the statue of secrecy and all this other stuff? Because that didn't work, or they just forgot to fix that. And I was like, oh, okay, that was screwed up. And then start of Act 2, maybe. I don't know. So we go to Hogwarts. We're going to Hogwarts. And here's where some controversy controversy happens. Gunpie. So the ministry, the British ministry, operates like on the far side of the bridge, and that kind of makes sense because that's where the Death Eater stopped when they were trying to assault Hogwarts. Maybe that's the limit of the thing, or maybe the non-apparition spell hasn't taken effect yet. Maybe it hasn't started yet, but anyway, they apparate on the far side of the bridge. It's like I forgot his name. Travers, I think, is the head ministry guy, and he's in there with Newt's brother, Theseus, and Leader Lestrange, and a couple of other Aurors, and they go over, like, oh, let's go to Hogwarts. And they go to talk with Albus Dumbledore. And they burst into his class when he's teaching a Defense Against the Dark Arts class, and he's having like a duel with McLaggen, the same McLaggen, probably whose great-grandson or grandson ends up dating Hermione in the Harry Potter story. He's got arms like Snarfagloff plants, or Snarfagloff plants. I forgot what she said. And he eats the Dragon Balls and throws up on Snape's foot, and he gets attention. So this McLaggen, he's like, oh yeah. And they name drop. I was like, oh, I want to talk to Dumbledore, and then this other teacher's like, oh, you just can't burst in here, and Dumbledore's like, okay, students, please go with Professor McGonagall. Like, oh, it's McGonagall. And here comes Hot Rod. Oh yeah, hibbity. Yeah, so this is a problem, or one of the quote-unquote problems that some people have with this movie, and so McGonagall said to Umbridge that she had been teaching about 40 years at Hogwarts. So if Harry Potter was done in like the 1990s, I would say 40 years before it was 1950s, and if she had to start teaching, say she was like 20-something when she started, she had to be born in 1930, but this movie takes place in 1927, and she wouldn't even be born. That doesn't make any kind of sense. It's all kind of crazy. Hippity hoppity. Yeah, so that's one of the things that people are like, oh, that just doesn't make it. That's crazy talk. So, yeah, I don't think that's that difficult to fix. I think there are many ways to deal with the McGonagall situation. I've seen some videos on people like, oh, that's just crazy, and she was born in this year, and on Pottermore, her birth year, I don't think was given. Her birth date is October 4th. But I don't know where people are coming up with the birth year. One thing she didn't say is she didn't say she had been teaching at Hogwarts for, let's say, 40 years continuously. So I'm thinking an easy way out would be that she taught a couple years and took some time off and taught some years and took some time off and came back and taught. So the sum of the years would be 40. It's like, oh, okay, well, then she could have started way back, way back. And I think this idea maybe is better than explain. Another way they could explain it would be like, oh, she's used a time turner, went back in time, started teaching, and then went back and stuff. Yeah, time travel stuff is a way out, but just making her a lot older than what they think she is, I think is probably a lot easier to do. I don't know if you know, but a lot of people, men and women, try to make themselves look different from the age that they really are. It's the magic of makeup and stuff. So, it's like, oh, she looks like she's 70. Yeah, but these are magical wizards. They can look whatever the frick age they want. The frick, all the Germans are like, man, that guy sure does swear, frickin' this and frickin' that. It's so stupid when people like, I'm gonna swear in a different language. That way, it's not really offensive. Well, it's offensive to people that take offense of swearing if they understand that language. So, it's just silly to say frickin'. They're saying like, oh my gosh. It's just also silly. Gee whiz. Or golly. Very silly. So, one of the things I thought would been kind of cool was if McGonagall was way old. And then she'd like, and she was the one, she did work in the ministry, and she was one of the ones who gave the time turner to Hermione. So, what if she was like a master of time and stuff like that? That'd be really cool. Another thing I thought would be pretty cool is we find out later that Nicholas Flamel is part of a secret organization, and he's been around. Nicholas Flamel hasn't seen action for over around 200 years. So, yeah, it would have been cool if that organization had some tie with McGonagall, and that the whole thing happened or something. So it'd be really cool to see that kind of action hook up, like span centuries. But yeah. So McGonagall's been there at the school for a long ass time. So you think, oh well, look, it's in like 1927, and she's at the school teaching at the school. No, she's been teaching at the school even longer than that, because in the flashback, well, let's finish this McGonagall, the Hogwarts scene. So the Ministry's like, hey, Dumbledore, you got to fight Grindelwald. He's like, no, I can't do that. We know because of the blood pact. And he's like, well, then you chose your side, and we're gonna put this tracer bracelet on you, like house arrest, and we're gonna track your skills and your spells and stuff. And you can't teach Defense Against the Dark Arts anymore. And then we see, then it's like, oh, we got to take off to France. We got to go to France. And Dumbledore warns Theseus, like, if they make some kind of meeting or some gathering or something like that, don't try to break it up, because then you'll look like the American police that like to punch protesters in the face and like, oh, well, they had it coming. No. That's clear abuse of power. Don't do that. You look like a fucking idiot. Yeah. And then we see Lita Lestrange going around the school and going into old classrooms, and she's having like remembering the time she was there, and we have a flashback to when she was a student, and a lot of the kids didn't like her, and she like cursed a couple of them, and then oh, there's McGonagall. Like, hey, no, don't do that. So McGonagall's been there teaching when Lita was a kid. So if Lita's like what, 25, 30, if Newt and them are around their 30s, they graduated around 17. She's been there since like 1917, 10 years something, 15 years earlier. She's been there teaching forever. So, yeah, she's been there a while. And you see the Lita in the flashback. She runs into Newt, and he's kind to her, and he shows her some animals like the bowtruckles and stuff like that. And he's taking care of a raven and stuff. So she gets smitten with him, and she's like, "Oh, nice guy." And after Dumbledore walks in, it's like, "Hey, what's going on, Lita?" And she's like, "Oh, you didn't like me when I was a student." He's like, "No, you were very smart." And Dumbledore's like, "I'm sorry, a lot of people are comparing, bringing up this rumors that your brother is alive or something like that. Like Credence, they're saying that Credence is Corvus Lestrange." And Lita Lestrange was like, "No, he was dead. Corvus died. And you can't talk to me unless you know something like that. If you had a brother die or something." And then Dumbledore's like, "Well, no, in my case it was my sister," and so they share that heartfelt moment, and it's like, oh, okay, so they kind of bond there, which is nice. Also, the actors who did the kids version of Lita and Newt were really good. They got a lot of their mannerisms down, and that was really nice. So yeah, and we also see Dumbledore at the Mirror of Erised, and it turns out what Dumbledore sees in the Mirror of Erised is Grindelwald and the vial of the Blood Pact. So that's what he really wants. If he can get that Blood Pact, then he can, fight or stop Grindelwald. But he can't do it until he has that vial. So the Hogwarts scenes was pretty good. So it had a lot of information and some controversy, but I think there's so many ways to fix the McGonagall thing, so I didn't really sweat about that. Alright, so that's it for this one. And I'll try to finish it up in the next video, so come back to watch part 3. Kampai. Bye-bye.